Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And as usual, coronavirus is dominating the news, but there's another story that's really kind of creeping up, isn't there, Dr. Lopkin?
It is, and I mean, I'd like to say it's creeping up, but the fact of the matter is most of the mainstream media is brushing it under the table. And that is the sexual assault accusation of Joe Biden.
I would agree. It's such a stark contrast to the Supreme Court hearings where, Ford, the accuser, you have to believe anything a woman says. I mean, it got to that level. And now, besides Fox, CNN, and Emmett won't even mention it.
No, and it's even more frightening because the accusations against both Donald Trump and Kavanaugh were that there was sexual contact. And that was where it ended. With Joe Biden, he's being accused by Tara Reade, who worked for him. Mm-hmm. She is saying he penetrated her with his hand. She reported it, was fired for reporting it, and Biden's staff swept it under the rug. So this is more than just an unsubstantiated accusation. This is an accusation that was reported. She was penalized for reporting it. And at the time he was congressman, I believe, from Delaware, his staff then covered it up. Now, this all comes across at the same time that Biden is yelling he is going to find a female for his running mate.
Well, I have to interject something about that. First of all, I agree with what you're saying. There's no question about it. But Biden has completely lost any kind of self-governance. It's all opportunistic gibberish. I don't know if he's even in charge or even cognizant of what's going on in his campaign, but Joe Biden of 20 years ago was pretty palatable. I mean, he was pretty middle of the road. I mean, he's got no center. It's just all whatever's expedient. He embraced the New Deal, the Green New Deal. I'm just going to appoint a woman. It's just, he just wants to get elected. He could care less. And I don't think he's really totally, in terms of his faculties, totally in charge of what's going on.
No, we've talked about that, on previous podcasts. I've spoken to members of Democratic state committees who have said, while they can't prove he has dementia, they certainly believe he does. So this is his own party that has concerns about his mental faculties. The choosing a woman for a running mate, he's trying to say, he stands up for women. The sexual assault charge clearly shows that he has not stood up for women. In fact, he has abused them. And to be fair, what he's really doing is the same thing every other presidential candidate has done when looking for a running mate, which is to find somebody who appeals to a different demographic than they do so that they can increase their chances of winning.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. But, he's had a history now since the campaign of this kind of latching onto anything, that's expedient. But that's neither here nor there. This sexual assault case, if this accuser is correct, is true and honest, which I kind of believe at this point, there's no reason why she's not, and there's kind of some history behind this, documentation, so to speak. What he did was beyond the pale. It blows away, Trump in terms of his locker room talk of 2016, doesn't it?
It does. And, yes, there is evidence of this prior to this. clip from 1993 of Larry King Live.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, has come to light, where the accuser's mother is talking about the situation and trying to get advice on how to handle it. And
so,
what really boggles my mind is the Me Too movement, because you have Alyssa Milano came out. Now, she's the one that started the Me Too movement with her tweet. She was referring to, I believe, Harvey Weinstein at the time, but she was saying that, women needed to be believed, and she started the movement with the Me Too hashtag. And she has come out with saying she'd like to believe her, but because it's Joe Biden, she's not going to. And other prominent celebrity members of the Me Too have taken Alyssa Milano to task. So it's literally splitting the Me Too movement, because the high-ranking Democratic Biden-supporting, members of this are essentially coming out as hypocrites, saying, yes, when it was a Republican, it was terrible, but now we can let it pass.
Well, that's exactly what they're saying. I mean, that's not trimming around the edges. That's getting right to the center of the matter. That's what they're doing. I mean, if this was Trump, God forbid, in, let's say, 2005, he did that or something, it would be 24/7. I mean, it really does point to the bias in the media.
It also points to the bias in the electoral, the elected officials. Remember when it was Kavanaugh, Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal was out there yelling that it had to be investigated. The FBI had to look into it. Now, dead silence. He has said nothing.
Yes.
And of course, really, why has he said nothing? Because Biden's, his boy. It's his party.
Well, isn't it that, especially on the left, that they do a much better job of circling the wagons, don't they?
Well, they certainly seem to in this case. What is working against them, though, is that there are some very prominent Democratic supporters coming out and saying, no, we can't let him get away with this. They're actually being poo-pooed by the media because they were Bernie Sanders supporters. And it's actually Bernie Sanders aides that have made the most noise about this.
Interesting.
I mean, take a look at this from the point of view of Bernie Sanders and his supporters. 4 years ago, the primary was rigged against him because the party wanted Hillary Clinton. Now, the party has chosen another frontrunner, and this one turns out to be someone who has sexually assaulted a woman. And again, Tara Reade has been very specific that what Joe Biden did was to push his hand into her skirt and into her. I mean, there's no, he was pushy. There was no, it was, jokes. This was sexual penetration and assault.
This is rape. This is technical rape.
This is rape.
And you know something? I want your opinion on this. I don't think it can be hidden in the actual presidential campaign. I think it's going to come out. I mean, obviously, PACs or Trump himself are going to do ads on this. And if he picks a female running mate, that might be the worst decision because it's going to point to the hypocrisy.
It's certainly going to showcase his hypocrisy. And how is a female running mate going to defend against this? I mean, she's either going to say, well, it has to be investigated and stand up, in which case it's going to damage the campaign. Or she's going to say, well, it doesn't matter, in which case she's going to lose a big chunk of female support. No question.
Speaking of support, do you believe the polls would have Biden up essentially by 10 points?
I don't believe most polls, quite frankly, because as we saw in 2016, they don't actually talk to a large percentage of the population. remember, all of these polls that have Biden up by 10 had Hillary Clinton 40, 50 points ahead.
That much?
There was one poll that the Republican Party actually just recently posted it on social media as a throwback, that in 2016 had Hillary Clinton getting 93% of the vote.
No, that's ridiculous, though. That's
Yeah.
crazy. But, I mean, here's what I really think, and why I brought it up, because let's say he is a little bit ahead. Even Alan Greenspan predicts, which I'm surprised because Dr. Lopkin said it first, I poo-pooed it, that the third quarter is actually going to be robust growth. If that's true, I believe Trump is a shoo-in. Your thoughts?
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
Greenspan.
The second quarter is going to be bad. There's no doubt about it. Everybody's expecting a disaster, but the economists that are looking at this, based on what the Fed has been doing to support the economy and the stimulus packages that the government, and well, credit where credit is due, these were bipartisan stimulus packages.
For the most part, until Pelosi came in.
Well, yeah, but for the most part, everybody came together to help out. People are expecting the third quarter to have a great rebound. And that was actually put more in focus today when pharmaceutical company Gilead released the latest results of their clinical trials on Rimezatrix. And not to toot my own horn, but remember, I told people to watch out for this drug, a while ago. It's showing great promise against coronavirus and against COVID-19 in particular. It is not a vaccine. It is something that when you're sick, you have to go to the hospital and you get it intravenously. So it's not, the cure-all that we want, that anybody can just take a pill. But it's already showing promise, and there was an Oxford clinical trial on a vaccine that was released yesterday, also with promising results. So you've got the economic stimulus. Businesses are chomping at the bit, for the most part, to get open again. You've got, on the health horizon, possible vaccine, possible treatment.
I'm thinking real quick. I think the vaccine, which I thought was not going to happen, I think it's going to happen quicker than we believe. I really do believe that. It's wishful thinking. I get it, but I really do believe that's going to happen.
It's definitely going to happen faster than people have been saying, because the people that gave the year and a half estimates were basing this on the typical FDA path, which, yes, any drug takes at least a year to a year and a half to get approval. The FDA, however, is streamlining this for COVID because it's so important to get this done as quickly as possible. So you have this rare situation where the scientists, the business community, and the government are all rowing in the same direction.
What is your estimation on a vaccine, which will be the game changer, wouldn't you think?
I don't know that I can make an educated guess on that, because it's all reliant on how the clinical trials go. I think process-wise, they've streamlined it to the point where we can have something by November or December. But that's only if the clinical trials are strong, the data is strong, and it's submitted to the FDA quickly. So, there's still a lot of uncertainty with that.
No question. Now, back to our original point, the accusations of sexual misconduct, how big of an impact is it going to have on Biden? From 1 to 10, 1 being almost nothing, 10 being huge.
I'm going to say it's going to be an 8, because you're going to have diehard Democrats defending him, poo-pooing the claims. Also, they'll be saying, well, nobody cared